Scientists put a couple in a lab, hooked them up to ultrasound equipment, and watched blood flow to the clitoris in real time during 5 different sex positions. And what they found completely changes the conversation about which positions actually work for women. Because most men have been choosing positions based on what feels best for them, and most women have been going along with it. And the gap between what's happening on his side and what's happening on her side has been sitting there unaddressed for most of their sex life. Today I'm closing that gap. I'm Valerie, sex therapist, and I'm going to walk you through the 4 positions science says are most likely to make a woman orgasm, what each one does to her body, why it works, and what it actually feels like from inside her experience. Stay with me. Because by the end of this, you're going to approach sex completely differently. Okay? So before we get into the positions, there's one thing the research makes crystal clear that underpins all 4 of them. Clitoral blood flow is everything. You see, the clitoris is not just a small, visible, external tip. It is a large internal structure. Arms extending along the vaginal walls, a body sitting behind the pubic bone, tissue wrapping around the vaginal entrance, and the more blood flow that reaches all of that tissue during sex, the more engorged it becomes, and the more capable it is of producing orgasm. The positions that produce the most reliable female orgasm are simply the positions that drive the most blood flow to the full clitoral structure. And what the 2022 study showed, using 3D models and ultrasound on a real volunteer couple, is that different positions produce dramatically different levels of clitoral blood flow. Some create symmetric, full clitoris engorgement. Others produce almost no meaningful increase at all. And the positions most men default to are often not the ones producing the most for her. Alright? So with that in mind, let's get into the 4. The first one, and the one that produced the most dramatic clitoral blood flow in the study, is woman on top, face to face. And here's why this one wins. When she's on top, she controls everything. The angle, the depth, the rhythm, the amount of pressure, and exactly where it lands. And that control is not just a psychological thing. It produces a specific physical result. Her body weight, or combined with her movement, drives consistent, targeted pressure directly onto her clitoris in a way that no other person controlling the motion can replicate with the same precision. You see, every woman's clitoris sits at a slightly different position relative to the vaginal opening. The distance varies, the angle varies. The exact spot where pressure feels best is individual to her body, and when she's on top, when she's the one adjusting the angle, shifting her weight, finding the exact position that puts pressure exactly where she needs it, she finds that spot in a way that she simply cannot communicate fast enough for a partner to find for her. Now here's what that feels like from inside her body when she gets it right. Is she shifts slightly forward from standard upright positioning, and her clitoris presses against the base of his penis or his pubic bone, and as she moves, not bouncing, but rocking forward and back, grinding rather than thrusting, she maintains consistent contact with that spot. The pressure builds. The blood flow increases, and the sensation that develops is something most women describe as completely different from anything they feel during standard penetration. A deep, spreading pressure that builds from the clitoris inward rather than concentrating at a single external point. The ultrasound showed dramatic and symmetric blood flow, meaning the entire clitoral structure, both sides filling simultaneously, which is exactly why this position produces orgasm more reliably than almost anything else. So let her have the top, and let her find what she needs. Your job in this position is to stay present, stay responsive, and follow her lead. Now, the second position, and this one is the one most men already use, but almost always wrong. Man on top, with a pillow under her hips. Standard missionary without any modification is not a particularly effective position for female orgasm. The angle of penetration during flat missionary doesn't direct enough pressure toward the clitoris. He's moving, she's mostly receiving, and the clitoris is largely uninvolved unless he's doing something specific to engage it. But add a pillow under her hips, tilting her pelvis upward, and everything changes. You see, that upward tilt does something very specific to the geometry of the position. It rotates her pelvis so that his pelvic bone and the base of his penis are now pressing more directly against her clitoris with every movement. The same thrusting motion that was passing by the clitoris before is now consistently making contact with it, and the study showed a really significant and uniform boost in clitoral blood flow when this pillow was added, comparable to the woman on top position in terms of what it produced. Now here's what she feels in this position when the tilt is right. With her hips elevated and her pelvis angled toward him, each forward movement of his body presses against her clitoris rather than just driving depth. She feels the pressure above the penetration rather than only inside it. And when he slows down, when he moves with deliberate, grinding pressure rather than fast thrusting, that consistent contact builds the same spreading sensation that the woman on top position produces. The pillow is not a minor adjustment. It is the adjustment. One pillow under her lower back or hips changes a position that works primarily for him into a position that works for both of them simultaneously. Now I want to pause here for a second, because what comes after this? Specifically what to do with your body during each of these positions. The exact movements and rhythms that drive the most clitoral engagement, and how to combine position with technique for maximum effect. That conversation goes further than this platform allows. So it lives in Valerie Uncensored, my private newsletter. Explicit, specific, unfiltered. The complete version of everything I'm teaching today. When the link is in the description, that's where you go for the rest of it. Alright, back to it. The third position, and this is the one that has the most research behind it, specifically for women who have never been able to orgasm during intercourse. The coital alignment technique. And if you've been following this channel, you've heard me talk about this before. But the science behind why it works is worth going into fully. So, you start in missionary, him on top, her on her back, and then instead of the standard in and out thrusting motion, he shifts his body upward, forward, so that the base of his penis, not the head, the base, is pressing directly against her clitoris. And now, rather than thrusting, both partners rock, a slow rolling motion. His body sliding up and pressing forward against her clitoris, then releasing back, is then pressing again. Her hips meet his movement, both of them moving together in a rhythm rather than him thrusting into her. You see, what this does is extraordinary. The sustained, continuous, rhythmic pressure of his base against her clitoris, never lifting fully away, never losing contact, drives exactly the kind of consistent stimulation that the clitoris needs to build toward orgasm. Every forward rock re-engages the full clitoral structure. Every back movement releases the pressure slightly, creating a pulsing effect that keeps the tissue responsive rather than numbing it through constant unbroken pressure. And internally, with this forward shift in his position, his penis is angled upward against the front wall of her vagina, against the G-spot tissue, against the paraurethral glands. So she's receiving simultaneous internal and external stimulation with every single movement. Now there is a learning curve. It's not the natural motion most men default to, and it takes some adjustment to find the right angle and the right rhythm together. But research has specifically documented that women who have never orgasmed during intercourse are able to do so with this technique. That is how significant the difference is between this and standard thrusting. And the key, as with everything in this series, is slow, consistent rhythm. The rocking motion has to be deliberate and unhurried. When it speeds up, it starts to lose the sustained clitoral contact that makes it work. So you find the rhythm together and you hold it. Alright, the fourth position, and I'm going to be honest with you about this one, sitting face to face. The study did show that this position increases clitoral blood flow, so it belongs on the list, but it ranked below the other three. And the reason is worth understanding, because it explains something important about what female orgasm actually needs. In this position, both partners sit upright facing each other. She's on his lap, legs around him, both of them sitting. The intimacy is extraordinary. The eye contact, the closeness, the feeling of being completely enveloped. Women love this position for connection reasons, and there is real clitoral stimulation available here because both partners can create pressure through their shared movement. But here's what's missing: gravity. In the woman on top position, her body weight presses her clitoris down into consistent contact with his body. In Modified Missionary, the pillow redirects his body's weight and movement toward her clitoris. In the coital alignment technique, his deliberate forward position maintains constant clitoral contact. In sitting face to face, there's no gravity component directing pressure toward the clitoris. The stimulation depends entirely on active movement rather than having the physics of the position working in her favor. So this position is genuinely good. The emotional and physical intimacy it creates has real value for her arousal and her whole body experience. But if orgasm is a specific goal, the other three have a physiological advantage that this one doesn't. Use it, enjoy it, but understand what it does and doesn't offer. Now, beyond the positions themselves, there are 4 techniques that the research consistently shows amplify what any position produces. And these work across all 4. You can apply any of them regardless of which position you're in. The first is angling. Adjusting the tilt of her hips or pelvis during sex to change where the pressure lands. The pillow under the hips is one version of this. But even without a pillow, small shifts, her lifting her hips slightly, changing the angle of her legs, tilting her pelvis, can move the stimulation from a place that isn't quite landing to a place that hits exactly right. Encourage her to make these adjustments. Her body knows where it needs the pressure. Give her permission to find it, and then rocking. The slow rolling motion rather than thrusting. Every time you substitute a grinding rock for a thrust, you increase the duration and consistency of clitoral contact. You've already seen this in the coital alignment technique, but the rocking principle applies in any position where continuous clitoral engagement is possible. Now shallowing. Focusing the stimulation on the vaginal entrance rather than going for maximum depth. The vaginal opening is dense with nerve endings. It's one of the most sensitive areas of the vagina, and short, shallow movements that keep stimulation concentrated at the entrance can produce intense arousal that deep thrusting often bypasses entirely. Mix shallowing with occasional depth, and the contrast amplifies both. And finally, pairing. This is the one with the most significant research behind it. 70% of women say that adding direct clitoral stimulation during intercourse with a hand, her hand, a toy, whatever works, makes sex more pleasurable and dramatically increases the chance of orgasm. And the reason is everything we've talked about in this series. Penetration alone, for most women, doesn't consistently engage the clitoris sufficiently. Pairing external clitoral stimulation with internal penetration activates both systems simultaneously, and when both systems are running together, they amplify each other in a way that neither one alone can produce. Pairing is not a consolation prize. It is a technique. Use it. Here's the truth underneath all 4 of these positions and all 4 of these techniques. Female orgasm during sex is not a mystery. It is not something that happens for some women and not others based on some invisible factor nobody can identify. It is a physiological process that requires specific things: clitoral blood flow, sustained stimulation, the right angle, enough time, and when those things are present, orgasm becomes available to the vast majority of women. The gap between men who consistently help women get there and men who don't is almost never about talent, size, or stamina. It is almost always about understanding, about knowing what her body needs and making the specific adjustments that give it those things. Now you have the science, now you have the positions, now you have the techniques. Go use them. And if you want the explicit, fully detailed version of how to apply all of this in practice, the exact movements, what to do in each position, how to read her body and adjust in real time, join Valerie Uncensored. Link is in the description. I'll see you there.